The battlefield of Infinity War was never meant for mortals. Titans, sorcerers, gods, and kings. These were the players destined to clash over the fate of half the universe. But imagine if one more figure stood among them. Not a god, not a super soldier, a man, a mortal with no powers, a detective, a strategist, a shadow. Imagine if the Dark Knight of Gotham entered the War of Gods. It begins long before the Outriders charged against Wakanda. Long before Iron Man faced the Mad Titan on Titan. Batman had already been watching. His eyes did not need satellites like S.H.I.E.L.D. His mind did not need magic like Doctor Strange. Where others saw a storm too large to fight, Batman saw patterns. Weaknesses. Openings. To Bruce Wayne, the word inevitable has never existed. Criminals in Gotham believed they were untouchable until he broke them. Tyrants believed they owned the night until he owned it instead. When whispers of an alien warlord named Thanos reached Earth, Batman did what he always does, he prepared. While the Avengers argued over Sokovia Accords, Batman built dossiers. He hacked Wakandan records. He infiltrated Stark satellites. He pieced together the truth of the Infinity Stones. To him, they were not myths. They were weapons. Weapons that had rules. Rules that could be studied. Rules that could be broken. He knew he could not stop a god with fists. He could not match Thor's hammer. He could not match Hulk's strength. But Batman never fought wars with strength alone. He fought them with fear, deception, and calculation. If Thanos was destiny, then destiny itself could bleed. So when the children of Thanos descended on Earth, the Avengers fought in the open. But somewhere in the shadows of Edinburgh, while Vision and Wanda were ambushed, another figure was already there. Not seen, not noticed, but moving. Batman did not charge at Proxima Midnight or Corvus Glaive. He studied their patterns, their weapons, their arrogance. The heroes saw warriors. Batman saw flaws. Proxima leaned on her spear too much. Corvus swung with precision, but every strike left his chest open. Small details, invisible to gods, but bright as fire to Gotham's detective. Later, when Vision fell weakened by the Mind Stone wound, Batman was already calculating. He knew the Black Order would try again. He knew Wakanda would become the battlefield. And while Shuri worked with her science, Bruce built his own countermeasures. Sonic disruptors tuned to alien frequencies. Magnetic traps that could interfere with the Outriders' hive signals. Devices that had one purpose, buying time. Because Batman had no illusions. He knew the Avengers could not win with brute force. Thanos was too powerful. The stones too absolute. But buying time meant options. Buying time meant survival. And survival meant maybe, just maybe, stopping the snap. When the call for Wakanda came, the Avengers rallied. Cap, Panther, Natasha, Bruce in Hulkbuster. They stood on the front lines. And then there was one more figure, cloaked in the shadows of a gunship. Batman. He did not stand in line with them. He vanished into the forests surrounding Wakanda. His war would not be fought in daylight. His war would be fought in silence. As the shields opened and the Outriders poured through like an unstoppable tide, Batman was already among them. He was not a king. He was not a god. But in the chaos of war, he was something worse. A shadow that struck from nowhere, vanishing before they could strike back. Outriders howled into the jungle, and then went silent forever. To the Avengers, the war was desperation. To Batman, it was chess. And every move was another step toward Thanos. But the question still lingered. Could one man truly change the course of a war against a titan? Could a mortal detective stand where gods fell? The answer would not come in Wakanda. The answer waited on Titan itself. Where Thanos would arrive. Where the universe would break. Where the bat would finally step into the light of a war meant for gods. The Black Order did not fear gods. They did not fear kings or soldiers. To them, Earth's defenders were fractured, desperate, distracted. But when they crossed paths with the Dark Knight, fear became a weapon they could not counter. On the battlefield of Wakanda, Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive cut through soldiers like they were nothing. Each strike was brutal, clean, merciless. The Dora Milaje struggled to keep them at bay. But even in the chaos, Batman's eyes tracked their rhythm. Every predator has a rhythm. Every killer has a habit. He moved through the chaos like smoke. No one noticed him until it was too late. One moment, Corvus lunged forward to impale a Wakandan soldier, and in the next, his glaive was yanked aside by an unseen line. A bat-shaped charge exploded against his armor, sending him crashing into the dirt. Corvus looked around for his attacker, but all he saw was a dark shadow melting into the trees. Proxima hissed, scanning the battlefield. She knew the Avengers. She knew the Guardians. But this was something else. This was not a soldier or a god. This was a ghost. Batman didn't strike like Thor. He didn't roar like Hulk. He let silence do the killing. Explosives detonated beneath outrider swarms, turning their waves into chaos. Sonic pulses disoriented their senses, driving them into each other. Every device Batman had built over weeks was now unleashed in seconds. Captain America led at the front, holding the line. But even he noticed something strange. The enemies that slipped through the shield weren't just being pushed back. They were vanishing, pulled down into shadows, neutralized before they could strike again. Steve didn't need to see the man behind it. He just whispered under his breath, "He's here." But the Black Order adapted. Cull Obsidian, the giant brute with near unbreakable skin, lumbered into the forest after the shadow. His roars shook the trees. Batman's traps slowed him, but brute strength tore through every line of defense. Smoke bombs clouded the air, but Cull swatted them aside. Finally, the monster cornered the Dark Knight, a mortal against a giant. To anyone watching, it would have been a death sentence. Cull's hammer crashed down with earth-shattering force. But Batman was never where the hammer landed. He darted, rolled, grappled. Every strike missed by inches. Every failed hit only enraged the beast. And then Batman did what he always does. He used the enemy's strength against him. A final grappling line wrapped around Cull's weapon, tethered to a sonic emitter. The sound sent vibrations straight through the hammer, destabilizing its core. When Cull raised it high, Batman triggered a charge. The weapon overloaded. The explosion knocked Cull back. Howling in pain, his weapon ruined. The giant was not dead, but he was broken, and Batman had no intention of staying to finish the job. He melted back into the war, a ghost once more. Meanwhile, in Edinburgh, the Black Order had underestimated Earth's resistance. On Titan, they believed they had already calculated every threat. But when Thanos stepped onto the planet, the balance shifted. Not just because of Stark, not just because of Strange, but because the Batman had followed them. Unlike the others, Batman did not walk into Thanos' presence unprepared. He had mapped every inch of Titan's battlefield the moment they landed. He had studied Thanos from shadows, analyzing the gauntlet, measuring the way the stones pulsed with energy. Every flicker told a story. Every surge revealed a weakness. When Iron Man and Spider-Man lunged, Batman did not join. He set the field. Trip mines hidden under shifting sand. Magnetic spikes waiting to bind armor. Cloaked drones circling above, feeding him data in real time. While heroes fought head-on, Batman built a web. A trap designed not to defeat a Titan, but to expose one. And then the moment came. Doctor Strange conjured 1,000 mirror images. Spider-Man webbed Thanos' arm. Iron Man fired everything he had. And while Thanos raged, Batman struck from nowhere. A sharp, blinding flash detonated against the mad Titan's eyes. Not enough to harm, but enough to blind him for seconds. Seconds that mattered. The gauntlet shifted. The heroes tugged. The plan to remove it was alive. But then came the breaking point. The moment Star-Lord's grief erupted, shattering the fragile control Mantis held. It was in this second that Batman acted differently from history. He was already behind Quill, gripping his arm like steel. His voice was cold, calm, and merciless. "Not yet." Quill froze. Rage boiled inside him, but Batman's grip did not allow weakness. He had seen this before. Men cracking under grief. Soldiers losing control in the middle of war. And every time he had stopped them, he would not allow one man's pain to undo the universe. The gauntlet slipped further. Metal groaned. For the first time, Thanos' arm was truly free of the glove's full power. For the first time, destiny trembled. But Thanos was not the type to yield. His roar split the sky. His raw strength defied their combined might. And though Batman had forced the plan further than before, the Titans will surged beyond even his strategies. Yet something had changed. The gauntlet was damaged. Cracks split across its surface. Sparks flickered between stones. And Thanos bled. For the first time, the Mad Titan bled. Batman's eyes narrowed behind the cowl. To gods, it meant nothing. To soldiers, it meant little. But to him, it meant everything. It meant Thanos was not invincible. It meant the war was not lost. It meant the Bat had found the first weakness. But the question hung heavy in the air. Was it enough? Could shadows break destiny? Or was destiny always going to snap its fingers? The Titan stood in the ruins of Titan's battlefield, the stars burning red above him. Thanos had faced gods, armies, sorcerers, but never a man like this. The Dark Knight was no god, no king, no chosen avenger. Yet he was the one who had pushed the Mad Titan closest to defeat. The gauntlet sparked in Thanos' hand. Cracks glowed where Batman's strike had torn into its housing. Blood streaked across his cheek where a batarang had cut deep. He looked down at the shadow standing before him, cape torn, armor fractured, body bruised but unbroken. "You fight without power," Thanos growled. "You are nothing compared to gods. Yet you wound me. Why?" Batman's voice was low, steady. "Because I don't believe in gods. I believe in weakness. And I just found yours." With that, he lunged not with brute force but with precision. Grappling lines wrapped around the gauntlet, pulling it against the jagged stone towers. Explosives detonated, forcing Thanos to brace. Every second Batman fought was another second the Avengers regrouped. Strange unleashed crimson bands. Spider-Man darted in, webbing the fractures Batman had marked. Iron Man's repulsors hammered into the same points. It was not victory, but it was war on Thanos' terms no longer. And then came the moment that history never recorded. The gauntlet slipped. Not free, not broken, but weakened enough that the Titan faltered. His left hand clenched. His right arm shook. For the first time, the Mad Titan's eyes widened. Not with rage, but with something colder. Doubt. But Thanos was inevitable. With one surge of strength, he broke free. He hurled Strange aside, slammed Spider-Man into the ground, and tore Batman's grappling lines apart. He raised the gauntlet high, and his voice thundered across the ruined world. "You cannot stop destiny." Batman rose again, blood dripping from his cowl. His answer was calm, unshaken. "I stopped destiny the night my parents died. I've been stopping it ever since." The Titan swung. Batman barely moved in time, but the shockwave ripped the ground beneath him. His body crashed into shattered stone. Bones ached. Vision blurred. And still he stood. That defiance enraged Thanos more than any god's hammer, more than any sorcerer's spell. In that instant, the Mad Titan wanted to crush not a hero, but an idea. The idea that a man with no powers, no cosmic gifts, could stand in his way. And yet Batman's endurance forced Thanos into mistakes. Every blow made him angrier. Every strike grew less precise. The more he tried to break the bat, the more he revealed his cracks. But destiny was cruel. The gauntlet, fractured as it was, still shimmered with impossible power. With one last breath, Thanos slammed it down and snapped his fingers. The light was blinding. Silence followed. And then dust. Heroes crumbled. Worlds silenced. The universe bent to his will. But something was different. This time, when Thanos looked at his hand, the gauntlet was shattered. Its power drained. Its metal blackened. its stones unstable. The snap had worked, but at a price far heavier than before. And the Titan knew it. His destiny had been touched, scarred by a mortal. As the dust cleared, Batman stood. Bruised, broken, but alive. He looked at the stars dimming above Titan. He had lost soldiers. He had lost half the universe. But he had learned the truth no Avenger had seen. Thanos was not inevitable. Thanos was vulnerable. The Dark Knight made a vow in that silence. The same vow he once made in Gotham. A vow that death would not end his war. That so long as fear existed, he would fight it. And now that vow was larger than Gotham, larger than Earth. It stretched to the stars. He whispered into the void, "This isn't over." And somewhere across the ruined galaxy, survivors felt a flicker of something they had nearly lost. Not hope born from gods. Hope born from a man. A man who had stood against a Titan. A man who proved destiny could bleed. A man who wore the cowl of the bat. Because in the war of gods, the most dangerous weapon was never a stone. It was the shadow that refused to fall.